All right, so welcome to Intuitive You on Oneness Talk Radio. We are so happy you're here with us today, and I have a dear, dear friend of mine from Australia with us today, and little do you know, she has been behind the scenes. She is on the One Heart Global Board, and they just raised some funds for us and the kids in Ecuador, and we are just so, so grateful for their support. And one of the things I want to share is, this project is a pretty big one. Like, our goal is to build them a whole school, and so I've been like, how do I do this on my own? And I didn't even tell Michelle this, but then she lets me know, hey, guess what? We raised funds for them. And they are just so grateful. We just talked with them briefly, and they're just like, everything helps. So thank you so much, Michele. And I would love for you just to introduce yourself. I know you're an amazing author and just global speaker. If you can just let people just know who you are and just welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to have a chat with you today, because it's just so beautiful when we always connect. There's always this special vibe of something happening. And the fact that we can be on other sides of the world and still be creating something so special together and working on something that actually has depth and meaning really, really lights me up. So for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Michele Jones, and as Abby said, I'm here in Australia. We are in lockdown right now, as are most people, probably at different parts of the world, but I'm finding so much freedom in lockdown, but don't tell anyone that, right? So I might be a bit what's the word? I don't know. Doesn't matter what.
I mean, we were talking about that even before the show. Like, I totally get it. The freedom you're finding and just going within and being so connected to your intuition, which is what the show is all about. So yes, please expand.
Yeah, I think if I'm to talk about what I do and who I am, that links to how we actually met, Abby, because I have programs called Live Your Best Life, or LYBL. You can probably see some stuff in the background there. And we connected because yourself and Alyssa, your very dear friend, who's now become my friend too, thank you, but also business partner and also on the board. So we're doing some beautiful things together now, and I'm really grateful for that. But I think Alyssa might have been searching for Live Your Best Life because she was along that path and she found me.
That's right.
I think so. I think she might have been, I found this girl in Australia and I think we need to have a chat. So thank you, Alyssa. Thank you. But how cool that the essence of just those words can unite people on a similar path and mission and open up, I guess, that journey of exploration and what we can do together as souls uniting around the earth, united by the essence of love, doing beautiful things. And then I met you and I was like, oh, this woman is all love. And little do you know that anything to do with Live Your Best Life, I don't have it in this room, but I think I showed you on one of our universal language of love. We have a love heart, and everything that we do has to resonate from the intention and frequency of love. So whether we're working in a corporate space, in business elements, or we're working with people one-on-one for their own best life blueprint or design, it all has to come from there. And the one element that we're all about is empowering life. So that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where, it's life of all beings. So our motto is to empower life with the one mission, that whoever we're working with gets to live their best life. So that can be in any form or frequency, or any being. So it's about not creating any harm, no judgment, non-attachment to things, and the essence of who we're being.
I love that. Can you say those three things again? That's beautiful. It is like the essence of love. No harm. What was it?
No attachment and no judgment. Non-harming, not being attached, and no judging.
So
yeah. It's actually, that's been probably built within me through yogic wisdom. I don't own it. I don't think anything we probably have in this lifetime now is ours. It's cycling around and being available to us, right? So that's the oneness. So we're on a oneness radio talk, right? The oneness of being is so what it's all about. And that's why I think when we talk about even being in lockdown right now, I think if we're not feeling into ourselves, we're actually not feeling into the rest of the world either. So we're all one. And I think that's hard to stomach when we see such a divide perhaps happening around the world right now. So if more of us can feel like we still have a oneness, we can resonate at a different frequency and hopefully vibrate the planet, the world up a level or two or three. Or more.
Yeah, I love that, right? So like, yeah, what's your best advice to stay in that oneness, to just raise our frequency to that place of love? Or what would you say, you know, obviously, I mean, the universal language of love, which to your point of like vibration is how we connected, right? She found Live Your Best Life, which is your work, and universal language of love, which is our collective work together, right? And it's just like the energy attracts. And I had forgotten that's how we met. It's totally true. And it's like, it doesn't always matter how, because the energy just starts coming into alignment and you start embodying it. You're like, oh my goodness, I am living my best life because I'm connected to love and my intuition, you know, which is
100% right. 100%. And I think we're all so different, but we're all the same, right? The way I do my stuff is different to how you do your stuff, is different to how Alyssa does her stuff. But the thing that brings us all together is that frequency. So, but the way that we express ourselves and the way that we do that, similar meaning, different words, different expression, different all of that. So the question of how do you stay connected to the oneness, that's really interesting, because I think what I can share personal experience here, but probably also what I've witnessed is that when we're continually seeking things externally from ourselves, we can often have that feeling of emptiness, right? And I know there's all the cliches like, you know, the cup be full so it spilleth over, and therefore there's more to be and give. But there's a truth to that, because if you're not feeling your own oneness, how could you even experience a oneness that's beyond you? Right. So for me, it comes down to continually understanding who I'm being, and maybe looking at certain parts of myself that are made up, that they're not true. And how do we discern that? How do we discern reality? So we are literally always creating our version of reality, which is why we can be probably standing at a mountain looking at a waterfall, but you'll be looking at it through your lens and see something completely different to me. I think we could all stand there and go, we are standing on a mountain looking at a waterfall, but you probably might see the color of the water at the bottom of the pool, and I'm probably looking at the birds flying around the mist. You know, so, and I'll go, oh, I didn't even see what you were seeing. So in every moment we have this opportunity to go, what is the actual truth? And I think that we actually dive deeper than that, and we go, take away our memories, our values, our experiences, all the things that color our world, and we actually go back to the truth. It's always the birthright of our inherent nature, which is not flawed. It's fundamentally whole. Like, yeah, we're not born unwhole. Like, you know, we can't probably be born into this human experience without that sense of wholeness, because we wouldn't make it. We wouldn't make it. So like from a cellular level, we wouldn't make it. So the whole point of the notion is, when we start to look more internal, and this has been a big learning for me, like, I guess if you think of these days that we're in right now, and there's a lot of shift and change going on around the world, the reality is that we kind of call it, oh, it's been a pause. There's been this massive pause in the world, or some people are coining it the Great Reset, or I don't know, there's a lot going on, right? So I'm like, but what if you just took that into yourself? Like, what would this pause mean for you? So I literally have been in that space. I had this gift of the pause, where past patterns of habitual tendencies that were not serving me walloped me big time over the head halfway through last year. And I was like, wow, okay. But now I have a chance to reset the path and reset the trajectory. So clearing away things that weren't serving, to reveal more of that oneness, and realizing that the things I used to seek externally were actually not bringing me true joy or true depth of connection to me and others.
Mhm.
right? So it's why it's broadened the depth of the currency of who I'm being in those moments, and that to me has meant more than anything. So it's very non-material anymore. There's not much materialistic about it. It's very simple. I think that there's this big C word that's been looming since 2020, but I'm like, let's get all the good C words that this could represent for us, like compassion and connection and currency and consciousness and community. Yeah, like, yeah. And I think that there's a lot of growth that's going to come out of this for the world. Yeah.
You mentioned, what's true. And for me, where I go is my intuition, because I feel like people can say things, they can have their even good opinions sometimes, right? But ultimately we know, like you said, we're born whole and complete, and if you're questioning that, think about a baby, like that baby's precious, right? You were once that, and so if you think about your innate wholeness, your intuition is a calling back to the remembrance of that, is the guidance back to love. It's like, go where love has paved the way before you. It's within you,
Yes.
right?
And that's exactly the meaning. And see, this is a great example of how we can say the same thing in different ways and have the same meaning, but allow a different lens for someone to explore.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? That is just, when you just summarize that, I go, yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that the inherent nature in which we're born is whole and complete, and it's guided by intuition, because it's actually cycling with the rhythm of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, at all times. And if we're disconnected from that, then our world is going to be far inferior to what we can experience superiorly. And I think that it takes away the monkey mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we allow the monkey mind to sit away for a little while, like, get over there. I'm going to allow my heart center or space to expand into this and see the real truth of what is being said, not
No,
this made up thing that my mind thinks it
right.
needs to.
Right. Well, it's just funny. I couldn't stop laughing because when we were in Bali, their real monkeys started taking our food away. Like, they're uncontrollable. Like, they literally, it's like your mind, like the monkey mind is for a real term. It's like really accurate. It's like, oh, I'll take that and that and that. Like, it just goes,
Yeah.
totally. And you're like, wait, that's fine. But it's like, if you take a moment to center and go into that knowing, the other thing, your intuition is connected to your purpose. So because you're born whole and complete, when you're following your intuition, you're naturally going to move in alignment with your purpose and fulfill your destiny. And, I haven't read your second book yet, but I have a feeling that it kind of guides you to get in alignment with that, live your best life. There's no way that it doesn't somehow in some term connect to that, because I know you too well at a soul level to just know that that's something you would write. And so is there a way you can share how people can get that book? And I also know you have a talk coming up. Can you just share anything about that?
Oh, sure. I mean, of course, the book is definitely, it's about uncovering those layers to reveal, I call it the excavation process. It's like excavating your way to the actual, it's almost like an archaeological dig, getting back to the actual truth of what is laying there under the surface. So it's literally about digging, dusting off, having a look and examining, and then really understanding what is the foundation of who you are. So the book is, I guess, an easy follow along, because it's literally just 10 different best life strategies that allow you to excavate your way towards your own unique blueprint that is already there, but enabling you to reveal that to yourself. Mm-hmm. So there are activities in there, and there's also the soul searching type of reflection pieces in which to do. So yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to grab that book, it's just go to lybl.com.au and go to the shop. There'll be books. Look for Live Your Best Life and you can purchase that book. But I think where this links, it probably, this whole intuitive piece, Abby, is for me getting into that stillness of being able to create that space of intuition being revealed, right, to allow that monkey mind to be rested. And I've really lent into the teachings of yogic wisdom really in the last few years, and it has enabled more and more of this to be revealed in so many more ways, because sitting in stillness and taking the time to even pause and notice the power of the human breath, and the human breath being something that we actually can control. One part of our body, that this amazing physical form, I mean, it's so intricate and so detailed. We trust it every single day. Yeah. And it's the ultimate form of self-love, our human body, because it doesn't matter what we do to it. We can have stinking thinking or drink something that's not good for us, and it still shows up trying to find a way to create healing in the body every single moment of the day. No matter how bad we trash it, no matter how bad we treat it, it's full of self-love. So it got me thinking around the element of how do people tap into this, especially at the moment when it seems like everything's amped up, everything's noisy. Even in lockdown, it seems like there's this busyness that bumbles under the surface, yet there's a absolute lack of purpose to it for some people. And the thing that I've really felt called to do was expand upon the technique of or the techniques involved that may lead to states of meditation. So I think that maybe gurus get to absolute heightened states of meditation. I think that people can sit and go and think they're meditating, but the truth is that they're techniques that might lead to meditation. So that called upon me around your question to actually go and learn how to be a meditation teacher. But if we link it back to some of the stuff that we've been doing, because I wasn't accredited, but I felt called to share this in these, especially at this time around the world. I just put it out there and I invited people to join. And, you know, I thought if one person says yes, great. But I thought it had to have a purpose piece, because I wasn't accredited. I didn't feel comfortable to charge for it, but I just wanted to be able to teach, because I always feel called to teach the things that bring value to maybe my world that I think I can see might have an impact and be able to assist others. And we put it out there, and, you know, before too long we had 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 8 people. We got up to about 18 people in 11 weeks that came and went from the classes. But we created a meditation series that went for 11 weeks just recently. It's just called Meditation with Michele. But how we linked it back to the oneness of the universe, because me witnessing myself is then empowering and enabling me to witness you, was to link it to the work that we are doing through the One Heart Global Mission of the orphanage, the kids in Ecuador, and how could we make an impact in some way. And perhaps that would create this feeling of oneness, because we're all working towards a common goal, and that it could be linked to heart mind of doing something good in a time of the world where everything seemed a little bit in turmoil. So, you know, you just mentioned we were able to donate some funds to the kids, and we know that it gave them supplies that they needed, food, particularly, right? Shelter, and being able to continue to provide the support that they need by the carers. Yeah. And it's just a little drop in the ocean. It's just a little drop in the ocean.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It goes.
I'm really feeling called with this right now to get this message out there around the human being element. I think that veils are about to be lifted around the world, and there'll be, you know, there's been this big insurgence of technology and artificial intelligence and chatbots, and I think that people will emerge from the veil. The masks will eventually come off, and I mean that not just physically but metaphorically. I really believe that humanity will again prevail, and I think that will come back to people power and the essence of who we are being. So this is where people get to do the work now or within, so that when you are emerging, you literally are emerging as an upgraded human being. And that ironically has been picked up by TEDx. So I've been invited to now prepare for a TEDx talk, which will hopefully make it to a TED talk, and that will hopefully get the message out there of more people leaning into themselves and realizing that as they do that, they give permission for others everywhere to do the same. and where we're fighting against each other, that's all fine. Just because it's disruptive, there's always duality required before there's change. And I think we're going to see a shift in the world. I think the world is going to crumble down some of the old current ways of doing things that are very restrictive, and I think we'll emerge with a little bit more expansion. People might think I'm hallucinating to say that, but right now, particularly when there seems to be so much levels of control around us, that I think that you will never ever take away the true essence and the inherent nature of the human.
And you mentioned something, you know, being the way you're being, and as you're being love, you're moving that frequency just to a higher and higher place, not only within you, but around you, right? And so that's why we need to keep talking about doing the work. To me, it's like coming back home to the love within you, being more of that, radiating that, and choosing that.
See, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. You know, it doesn't mean that all the challenges in life go away. I mean, I always just, it's contradictory or cliche. I love the cliches in life, but the cliche of just look to nature. It can be all tumultuous one minute, having a major storm, a tornado, or you name it, an earthquake, and then there's just this calm that always comes after the craziness, and eventually regeneration and growth occurs, and it resets, and away we go. And I think that right now I just have to look to be able to draw upon that, to be able to trust it, because we're all part of that. We are all part of that within nature.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, the universal frequency of the universal language of love will just, it always will reveal itself, but you need to be able, you can access it sooner, is what my point probably is, if you can allow the monkey mind to calm and actually start to realize that you are more than who you actually probably believe you are right now. Maybe confined within your own four walls, maybe you're feeling locked in, whereas in lockdown I think people can be setting themselves free.
Yeah, by going within, 100%.
Yeah, and liking what they see, and maybe not liking what they see, but being okay to look at that and realize, where are their attachments, where are their judgments, where are they where are they having aversions in their life that cause afflictions in the mind, and probably appreciating the body mind complex. Like, I was having a laugh with my husband the other day, because I used to always be on planes and traveling all around the place prior to 2020, February, March 2020. So my whole life was pack the bag, get on the plane, wash the clothes, where am I going, what time do I got to be there, doing the airport, Uber, hotel shuffle all day long, week in, week out, connecting where I could with family and friends, you know, and it just felt like I was ticking boxes. You know, okay, yes, I've spoken to my husband. Yes, I've connected to my best friend. Yes, I've done my podcast in the morning. I've gone for my walk. Yes, I've done my yoga. I've done my meditation. Right, I've gone and run a workshop. And then I'd find myself not alone, never felt alone, but sitting in maybe hotel restaurants at night, or getting room service, burning the midnight oil, thinking I'm going to be super productive while I'm on the road, so that when I'm home, I'm more present. And I was missing the point. Missing the point. Yeah. The point that it was not about any of that. Like, it literally had to be how I was being. Like, that was complete. Like, I was sitting there. I remember having a moment sitting in a hotel restaurant where I was not feeling alone, because I always feel connected with the vibe of the universe around me. I don't care where I am, what I'm doing. It's like, yep, I'm here and I'm doing that. But I was like, do you know how good it is to actually sit and be in control of cooking your own food and choosing what goes in your body, like every minute of the day? Like, sure, you can make choices when you're on the road, but now I actually have control of the entire process of thinking about, okay, how do I make the food? How do I give love to the food? How do I have that element and that thread all the way through? You don't know if you're eating a meal where somebody's had a cranky day, and that can probably vibrate through my body at a bad frequency, and then wonder why I don't feel so good that day. Like, I know that sounds a bit weird. It doesn't mean I'm never going to have a hotel meal or go to a restaurant again. But it was that reality of who you're being in every moment dictates the frequency of not only your own life, but those around you. Yeah, the pause, the reset's been really good.
You know, I think I did read your first book that's right behind you and do the worksheet. There's some really powerful questions in that, the Live Your Best Life, your first one. It was really—
I was going to say, I think that you contacted me about that book when you were doing something with it once.
Oh, yeah. And so it's, I mean, there's powerful questions, you know, it's like, I think, you know, you were talking about the monkey mind. If you can first go into your intuition and then use your mind as like an asset to help your intuition, like the questions that she has helps you to like kind of frame your mind in a way that you can receive more of your intuition. And so, you know,
that's exactly what it's been designed to do, because most of the people that I work with in a coaching space, I find they come with the question that might start with a why, or it might start with a how. How do you do this? Why does this happen? And I'm like, let's reframe that simply to be a what question and see what changes. So if I ask you a why question, like, why, Abby, do you have that painting behind you on the wall? That beautiful blue painting, or the beautiful flower.
Oh my God, stories.
So if I go, why is that picture on your wall? Then I'm just going to gather information. But if I actually go, Abby, what does that painting mean to you on the wall? Now I literally get an insight into your soul.
Wow. I love
and it's different. So it's the what versus why. It's simple little things, but they allow us to see our soul's inherent truth and the inherent nature of who we're being, instead of just gathering up more and more information that is absolutely uselessly taking up space in our mind, that we then start to gather as information, which starts to build a bank of, I like to say hallucinations, but build up a whole bank of information that's pretty useless.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. One of my teachers also used the word how, like more as a problem solver, like how can I move forward, or how can I, you know, build this orphanage? Like, it's such a more positive.
Yeah, how and what are the two key questions. And there's a whole bunch, I think we've got over 100 odd, we call them Live Your Best Life questions that start with the whats and the hows.
I love that.
Yeah, and they're just like at the very start of the book, because that's just a really simple process. And the more that you see yourself asking why, as opposed to what or how, you can start to shift neurology, where it then starts to open up the soul's frequency just that little bit more. So it's like just edging back a little bit by little bit to reveal the light. So you might just go, oh wow, a bit of insight into myself each time when you start to do an activity within the book, because it's about taking the time and pausing a little bit and reflecting to actually see, because most of the time, I call them riverbeds. It's literally like, we're like water, right? As a human being, we always find our way, but are we etching a riverbed that is like deep and furrowed in a way that we become entrenched and ingrained in that way? So in the book, we talk about portaging. So if anyone's done any kayaking, we literally, when you kayak, if you want to go to another riverbed, you got to portage the kayak from one riverbed to the next. So how do we do that for ourselves so that we're not going down this like this riverbed that's just got years of water furrowed through it, that's so deeply etched, that's actually taking us on the same journey in life the whole time? How do we actually create a new riverbed? And you know, if we go from a whole quantum physics and a whole neural science pathway mindset on that, we can create new neural pathways in the mind. You know, you just have to look at neuroplasticity and all of those types of things that are available to us to realize that we actually can have a massive impact. But most of the time I see people just can see through that one lens, and that's the reality that they're seeing, and then their soul is trying to tap at them like, hello, here I am, just look and see and be. The truth will be revealed. Yeah,
and the other thing that's just coming to just really speaking to my heart, I keep feeling, is that purpose. So like for me, you know, the whole thing, I don't know if I ever told you this, Michele, but One Heart Global, that came as a vision when I was in high school. And so again, I believe like our souls all come with purposes. And when we open up to our inner vision, we can see them. But I really did. I saw myself building with kids and they had darker skin than me. So I was like, okay, it's not in this country. So that was like my clue, right? And I wrote this essay and the school liked me so much they gave me a scholarship, like I think from the essay. But the whole point is like, I felt it, like my soul knew that was my calling. And it wasn't until like 10 years beyond that, even probably even more beyond that, that I actually did it, but I took the action. So I feel like, you know, when you're feeling called, first of all, what inspires you? You know, what do you love? And notice where your heart is leaning in. Um,
I resonate with that story so much, Abby, because, you know, if anyone reads some of my more recent books, like the Why Not book and the Feminescence book, one thing that I talk about is being kind of feeling like a little bit of a freak as a kid, because I would sort of see things and feel things differently to people around me. And I thought that how I felt was like how everybody experienced the world. So I'm like, what do you mean you're not experiencing it? And I remember, you know, life threw a few curveballs in early teenage years, and I kind of got to 15 years of age and I was like a bit disillusioned about a few things, and I started to see that essence starting to dissipate, like it was starting to dissolve, and I didn't want it to. And I was fortunate enough that I had a dad clued in enough to witness this drop in I guess my overall frequency, if that makes sense. And he sent me off to my very first experience of an experiential retreat, I would say, as a 15-year-old, called the Greatness in You seminar. And it was a 5-day seminar, and I was the youngest person in the room. And I was in the room there with people who were like 30, 40, 50, even 60 years old. And it changed my life in that moment. As I emerged from that 5 days, I knew there and then what my soul's purpose definitely was. And I knew it from 7, but I ignored it. I knew it again at like 11 and I ignored it. Yeah. And then I had to go through a dark period to then be beautifully sent into this environment to see it, to see it clearly. And then nothing has changed since that moment. I've seen it clearly. I'm now nearly 50. But it took probably 20 years for me to be able to, and it still unfolds every day, right? But the essence of that message and who I knew I needed to be, and my soul felt called to express in this lifetime, was clear to me as a 15-year-old. And I started writing Live Your Best Life after my name as a 15-year-old. And I think that's very similar to what you're saying. Like, you had a vision, very clear. Like, Live Your Best Life was like, I was known as the Live Your Best Life girl, you know, and I was like, I made almost like a pact with myself as a 15-year-old that I was going to leave that space and find a way to find a way to be able to work in that area of work, which was to be able to help people to transform their own lives and hold space for that to happen and provide environments in which they could do that, and for them to be able to experience themselves at their own pace, in their own way, in their own time, not putting my map of the world onto it, but just asking similar questions that they could explore for themselves and to find that. And I'm also finding just through the guidance of meditation allows people to open up that window of soul frequency. Because it's literally not a teacher or an educator, even though you might be called a meditation teacher. You're literally just allowing people a question to reflect upon and to be still. And I think that our minds need a little bit more stillness to be able to allow that to be exposed. And it doesn't mean it's not there when we're in environments where it's going crazy around us. The whole point is I can be in an environment that's totally disruptive now, totally on its head, lots of drama, and I feel so calm. And I used to probably get energetically on that frequency get affected. But now I've realized that the higher of the vibration of the frequency that you resonate at, the less the lower frequencies actually impact you.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like they just don't, they can't get in. Like it's like a undercurrent here, and the frequency. It's not saying that I'm above and that's below. That's definitely not what I'm saying. It's not about, oh yes, that lower frequency. Like it's not, it's all needed, right? And it doesn't mean I don't go into a lower frequency in an area of my life, but it's having the awareness and the consciousness around who I'm being in that moment.
So, I have a question for everybody listening. What did you know as a child? What did you know? Maybe journal on that. Because as you were sharing your story, I was 8 years old and I was in the laundry room and I walk in and I'm like, Mom, I'm like holding the world and it's holding me at the same time. I think it's God. And so like I knew when I was 8 what that was, right? And I remember pointing on a globe. This is just fun to share. I was like, Oceania, I want to go there. And like, what did I do? Like, I moved by the ocean. I traveled all these oceans, and it was just so funny. So like, we know so much. And I feel like, that's another passion and just deep calling is to continue this stuff with the kids because like, it's hopefully less inhibited as children. I feel like the older we get, the almost harder sometimes it can be. And so, to just support the essence of ourselves and the children in our world, to nurture that intuition and trust it and remember who you are, like the Lion King, it's like, remember who you are. It's like, it's funny, but it's true,
It's so true.
Yeah.
Like it's so interesting, Abby, because you don't even have to be like a maternal mum, as in a real life mum, right? I feel like I'm a mum to many children of the world, and I'm a mum to dog souls. I'm a fur baby mum. But my husband often says, like, we weren't gifted the gift of a human baby or child, despite us really wanting to be parents. But he goes, but the work that you do around the world is that, like, you wouldn't have time to be a parent to one child. And this was where I think, and I love your spirit and your heart for that. I really do, because I think that's how we were actually able to meet and connect, in the sense of, if you didn't have this connection to purpose and intuition and soul, and knowing that little vision that you had could become a reality, and you've created it into a reality, that the work can continue to evolve and expand, and you can bring others on the journey. And I think one thing that we talk about at One Heart Global is it's one dream that we're uniting people around. And it's about sharing those stories, because the work that you do with Intuitive You and Intuitive Child, I think, is the most important work there is. Really, if you think about it, as you said, it gets a little bit harder as you get older, right? Maybe for some it does. But I just remember the moment we had this beautiful opportunity to work with a lot of families in 2013 to 2018. There was like this big influx where we were getting sent clinically from our medical practice close by. They were like, there's nothing wrong with these people medically, but they show up to our clinic every single week with an ailment or an issue, but we run their bloods, we run their tests, there's nothing wrong. And so there was this big movement towards like antidepressants and so forth, really, to fix that problem, because people weren't feeling joy and love and experiencing life on a high frequency, no matter the fact that there was nothing wrong. Right? And where my point with it is eventually people got wind of this, and I started having parents arriving here saying, there's something wrong with my child, there's something wrong with my child, they won't get off the couch, they're on antidepressants, they don't socially interact, they're always on their screens. And we went, there has to be something to this. And as we peeled back the layers, we just realized that a lot of that was being conditioned by cotton wool parenting, for one. And that is, I've got stuff that I need to sort out as an adult, but I'm projecting that onto my child. And therefore I'm trying to take care of them because I didn't feel like my needs were met in some way, right? So we had different programs going on for the adults as well as the kids, but eventually what we did was we brought the whole family unit together, and we realized that they needed to have that as a communication piece, and we had to declare what we call, and you like this being American, Independence Day, right? So the family home had to declare an Independence Day from the age of 15 to 21. The family home was focused on the child leaving home at 21. Now, our case studies at the time and research that we found that backed it all up showed that if a child hadn't left home between 21 to 24, that they were going to be less likely to be able to have the coping mechanisms and the groundedness to be able to potentially connect to their soul's purpose and live out that expression. So they were maybe not going to climb their own corporate ladder. They were probably just going to operate at a lower frequency. But my point being is that we were able to get that kind of work into the schools, whereby kids could tap into, what does it mean to connect to a purpose? What does it mean to know about intuition? How do I actually set a vision? How do I know how to set a relatively okay goal that's going to suit my needs? But other things, like, how do you teach them to negotiate? How do they keep a budget? How do they put fuel into a car? We found with cotton wool parenting, kids didn't even know. They were driving cars around that they were given by their parents, but they had no idea how to change a tire, fill up a tire with air, how to check the oil, check there was water, and put fuel in the car. And I'm like, basic things but mean a lot, because you don't want your child not to be empowered if they're stranded on the side of the freeway. Right. And they don't have cell reception. Right. So we're all about empowering life, so in every moment. But yeah, being able to connect our kids of today to that is so important. Yeah, so important. That's why I'm on board. That's why we're doing this work. So not only for that, like, I see the impact that your work is doing in the orphanage there with the kids, where they get to experience their soul for a moment in time and realize that even though their environment is totally, wow, like, I look at them, their heart is expanded beyond anything, and yet they have hardly anything.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing. I mean, even teaching the intuitive success coaching process, the first part, the intuitive factor, like, they were open to what vision they could do. Like, they were so empowered. So it's like, even just that little open door to connecting, just that feeling for a moment of purpose is just so powerful. So I know you got to run. I want to be super
through the doorway of love. So that's it. Like, that orphanage is despite its what would you say, basicness of infrastructure, the baseline of infrastructure, which obviously, having a secure home environment in which to live, and maybe some fresh water, and being able to have plumbing and ways in which you could get rid of fecal matter and all of this out of an environment is so important, really, at the end of the day. But what I'm seeing is also, even though they need food and they need supplies and all of that, that when love enters that space, it probably to the kids doesn't matter as much than it does to people like you and I, where we want them to feel more around them, like that feeling of a space, like, and what that can do to somebody when they already operate from a frequency of intuition.
They feel it. Like, let me tell you, they feel it. Like, I went with my dad and they flocked to him. To me, it was amazing. So they feel it. So just know, everybody that's contributing and has contributed, your love, your heart makes you cry, is doing so much for them. They feel it. I just get so much gratitude, and they sent you gratitude, Michele, and everybody that has contributed. Anybody that is feeling that heart calling, lean in, you can go to oneheartglobal.co. So www.oneheartglobal.co. You can click on mission to read a little more about the story and the mission, and also go straight on donate. And we're going to be revamping that soon, probably, we're talking about. So also the link for the meditation class, Michele, do you want to share that real quickly? How people can
I think it's the same thing. If you go to www.lybl.com.au, put in /meditation, and it might be meditation with Michele, so Michele. Maybe I can send you some links, Abby. You might be able to pop it into an email or something and get it out there. But the reason why I'm sharing that is because I think it brings that whole oneness element, and also the fact that it's all done via the value that someone might get from it. So it's not like 100% of the funds, well, it is 100% of the funds for the meditation classes are going to the kids. I'm not keeping anything because I didn't feel like, as I said, being unaccredited at the moment, and I will be in October, but it wasn't about that for me. It was about bringing that element of oneness to self, resonating to a frequency of expanding out, to be able to bring oneness of mission to helping a dream to support some kids. And so if people are feeling called to that, they donate what they want. It's literally like you can do the classes for free, or if you want to actually have an impact, you can actually just do donate what you feel is appropriate, and every single cent is going to the One Heart Global Foundation to be able to support whatever effort is required to continue to bolster out the bigger vision, which it will be eventually for us to be able to provide a new home and school for them. So
yeah, I love
and literally sometimes it's month by month. So if anyone can, like I know Abby's speaking to the orphanage regularly, so if there's anything that anyone feels called to be able to do today, do it, because sometimes our conversations with them are week by week, like they need to pay an electricity bill or they need to put food on the table. So
yeah, and I'll just offer my email so it's Abby, ABBY at lifeforceconnection.com. If for some reason those links that Michele gave you didn't work, email me. I'll make sure you get the link. And also if you want to donate anything, you can always reach me. Michele is just crazy busy. I don't think I'm as busy as her right now, so I don't want to ask her to share her email unless she wants to, but I'll make sure that you get those links because I want you to be able to have those. Also the intuitivechild.co, if you or your children or child, want to be more intuitive or help nurture that. Again, it's www.intuitivechild.co. And then Michele, love, any other ways that you would like, do you want to share anything else about how people can, get anything else from you? Stay connected.
Well, yeah, I mean, if anyone goes to our website, they'll be able to find me, or our team will be able to support in any way. That I think that when we can vibrate through the frequency right now of just doing something as simple for a 30-minute meditation practice, just sending the resonance of an om out universally is hitting. It's like the radio, like when we do an om, it's like the nature's way of tuning into the same station and channel on the radio.
Totally.
So the fact that we're talking about Oneness Talk Radio, and we're talking about trying to create oneness and also awareness to resonance of love, is to go within. But when we actually together, we actually unite in the frequency of oneness universally.
Yeah.
So I would say the thing that I'm really called to serve with right now is the meditation, and I know that it's linked back to the kiddies and the kiddos of what we're doing. So just go there, check that out. And if you want to check out books and other resources, I've written a few books and stuff that people access all around the world and say that it helps them live their best life. So and we'll have podcasts and stuff coming out soon. But yeah, just stay focused on yourself and find the tool that works for you, and we'll know that you'll vibrate at a higher frequency, so it'll land where it needs to go.
For sure. And can you share that website one more time, sister, just so people can write it down where they can go, the website?
www.lybl, which stands for Live Your Best Life.com.au, all the way from Oz.
So happy you're here. All right, sister. Well, I'll let you run. Thank you so much. Love, love, love you.
Love you too.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.